Here you go. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Rocio Rivas, and I welcome you to the October meeting for the Greening Schools and Climate Resilience Committee. Thank you all who are here present for being with us, and also those who are watching us remotely. Welcome. Thank you for being here as we confront a simple truth. Our students cannot wait for clean energy action, which is why we're here. Every delay means another year of overheated classrooms, unsafe air, and missed opportunities to show our young people that public schools can lead in protecting the planet that they are inheriting. This committee exists because we understand that environmental justice begins on our own campuses, in our own communities. Each solar panel, each tree planted, each shade structure installed is a tangible promise to our students that we are not waiting for change, we are building it, and for them as well, for our city, for them, and our communities. Today's meeting is about acting on that promise. We'll begin by learning how our district can secure millions of dollars and federal clean energy tax credits before they expire, an opportunity that could accelerate solar construction across our schools. Then we'll hear from district's eco-sustainability office in turning those investments into a comprehensive, measurable plan for achieving 100% clean energy and climate resilience, and other updates as well. Now, to get our meeting started, I'd like to invite Katie Thomas Carroll, Director of Livable Futures at We Build Progress, to share how the district can leverage federal clean energy credits to advance our solar and clean air goals. So thank you, Katie, for joining us today and for your leadership in helping public agencies access these transformative funds at a critical moment. So go right ahead, Katie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Rivas, and thank you to all of you for having me here. It's an extreme honor to be here. Up from San Diego, just got to take the Pacific Surfliner. Highly recommend it if you've never had a chance to do so, because it's a gorgeous ride. So I always take the opportunity to come to the City of Angels when I have a chance. My condolences to your Dodgers. I have faith in your Dodgers. So I'm really excited to get to be here during such an important time for the city. One little wrinkle I have is that I handed out my cards, but those are old cards. So you might have noticed that our new name is We Build Progress. We are the artist formerly known as the Congressional Progressive Caucus Center. But feel free to email me there. It'll reroute, and I'll be able to get your contact, no problem. The last thing I'll say by way of introduction is that I'm here with some not awesome news. It may not surprise you that the federal government has been very bad. It's been very bad to us. And so we do have some wrinkles about how we're going to go forward implementing renewable energy here in Los Angeles. But I'm gonna finish it up with some hope and some action that I hope that the board and you all can help us take in order to ensure that we're able to maximize the amount of money we're able to pull down from the federal government into this city. So to get us started, I'm just gonna let you all know what changed. So you may be familiar with the elective pay or direct pay tax credits, and what that did was it took the previously existing renewable energy tax credits and it just made it available to tax-exempt entities like LAUSD and to the city of LA. Unfortunately, the big ugly bill, or HR1, took those tax credits and put some new expiration date and some new red tape, as you can see in our graphic, and is going to make it slightly harder, but not impossible, for us to pull down these tax credits down. So this is a really text-heavy slide, and I apologize. So as you know, LAUSD has plans to implement solar at 21 school sites between now and 2027. My biggest message to you today is that we need you to speed up any of those projects if possible. And Christos is going to get into this more later, but this is going to create, if we are able to get all 21 school sites completed in time for these new deadlines, the district should be able to have net savings of $45.7 million over 25 years. And that's not chump change for a district like LAUSD. These projects will be eligible to receive direct payment from the federal government for an estimated 40% of project costs through the investment tax credit. And this could mean direct payments totaling as much as $33 million from the IRS to LAUSD in the next few years. What we hope you will see this revenue as is an opportunity to reinvest. You talked about greening the schools. Green space and outdoor space is really important for our students, just as important as having a renewable energy future and a future free of fossil fuels. Community, labor, and government partners have worked tirelessly to get to this point of the project implementation, and following the passage of the Republican budget bill, the stakes are obviously high to make sure that we actually bring that money down. Solar projects have broad support and will help the district reach its commitment of 100% clean renewable energy in its electricity sector by 2030. Okay, this is supposed to make things easier and not more confusing, so hopefully this isn't too overwhelming, but this graph, it shows you for each of the technologies down the left-hand side, so solar and wind, electricity storage, and geothermal heat and cooling, and then on the bottom, geothermal electricity, and then on the bottom, geothermal heating and cooling. For the most important dates we really want to get through to you all is that wind and solar projects must begin construction by July 4th, 2026, or be placed in service by the end of 2027 to get the credit at all. That is a little bit complicated by what we're calling, what the statute calls prohibited foreign entity rules. And if the district is able to not only begin construction on these projects by the end of this year, so begin construction by December 31st, 2025, and place in service by June 30, 2026, you won't have to worry about that at all. And that's why we're saying you should really hurry up, because as it stands, we're pretty sure these prohibited foreign entity rules are going to be unworkable. And that's because the IRS says, you as an entity, USLAD, what is your debt? All of your debt, not just the debt for this project, but you as an entity is 15% or less of your debt held by these prohibited foreign entities, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and I'm forgetting one. If you are not able to show that, which you probably won't be, because of course your debt is sold and then resold and then sold to somebody else and then sold to somebody else. So the underwriters don't really have proof for us right now of all of where the school board's debt is. And so ideally, we just don't have to worry about this, because we're gonna rush these projects in, we're gonna grease the wheel, and we're gonna make sure it gets done by June 30th of next year. That's for wind and solar, okay? We have to really, really rush it for wind and solar. For energy storage, so batteries, for ground source heat pumps, we have a little bit more time. And some people think that ground source heat pumps is not really a thing in LA, but it totally is. We can cool our schools, especially in the summer, and cut those LADWP rates at the highest peak when it's the air conditioning is the most expensive. So, but we have time to figure that out. So we really want you to stay focused on solar and really rush these projects to existence where possible. So what does all this mean? This is just another graphic to hopefully say the same thing, to just really get you all comfortable with the dates and when things have to be done. So in the very bottom left-hand corner, you'll see that wind and solar begin construction by the end of this year, and avoid the material assistance requirements. If they begin construction after that, so January 1st, 2026, they will be subject to material assistance requirements. And that is not only for the technology itself, so the solar panels cannot be manufactured in China, it is also for the debt. It is also for the how that gets financed. And then it's not just for the financing for the solar alone. Again, it's for the entire budget of the entire LAUSD. So in order to just be really clear about what we're asking you to do by the end of this year, we break down what begin of construction means, and there are two options. So as for the smaller scale solar, you are able to do two different things to begin construction. Sort of the easiest one in my mind is placing 5% or more down. We recommend you do more like 10 to 15% because budgets always have overruns. If you've ever been involved in a construction project, you know that it always ends up being more expensive than they said it would be. So we don't want you to put 5% down and then get to placed in service and all of a sudden that was no longer 5%. That means that you're out of luck. But if you've put down 10 to 15 and you land somewhere in the middle, then you're good. You've given yourself that buffer to make sure that you have that 5% down. And I'm on the right-hand side of this slide. So the entity should plan, so we have it on there, incur 12 to 15% of those costs just to make sure that you're not given any overruns. And to be clear, this 5% option is only available to those smaller scale, so commercial scale, like the solar that goes on top of the school, not like the field of tons of solar. This is kind of more that commercial scale of 1.5 megawatts. And to give you a sense of it, like 1.5 megawatts is like an entire field of solar. So for all those all the LAUSD buildings, all of those smaller projects, they have this option of just giving the developer 10 to 15% of the project cost and being able to lock in and get into safe harbor for this tax credit. On the left-hand side of the slide, I don't know that you all even have any of these, but this is, just so you know, this is the other option. And this remains true for those smaller projects. So if this is how that project, if it makes sense for this project to do it, totally do it. And that is physical work of a significant nature. And that is including on-site and off-site work. So it doesn't necessarily mean moving dirt at your site. It could be buying the panels and having them held at the developer. It could be putting all the racking together that then is going to be put onto the roof. There's lots of different ways that you can meet this test, and it applies to wind and solar of any size, but especially those larger ones. That is the only option for those larger projects. So if it is a larger project, it must begin physical work of a significant nature in order to get into the safe harbor. Then, again, if you've begun construction by the end of this year, you must place in service, and that means that the solar panels start producing electricity. LADWP has said, yes, you can turn this on, and it's running, and that's placed in service. That must happen by June 30th of next year in order to avoid the messy prohibited foreign entity rules. If it doesn't, and we're talking about 26, 27, you actually have up to 4 years to place it in service and figure out how to meet this prohibited foreign entity rule. So if you've locked in, begin construction in 26 or 27, you then will have up to 4 years to place the project in service and be able to prove that, we'll work out how we're gonna figure out how to prove that where the district's debt is. Okay, so this is the 3-part prohibited foreign entity rule. The first one is what I've sort of been talking about most, and that's the entity level rule, and that says for any entity, you cannot have more than 15% of your debt held by one of these 5 foreign countries. And that applies to tax years beginning after July 4th, 2025. LAUSD follows a fiscal year, and that's why I keep saying June 30th, because your tax year matches your fiscal year. And then the second rule is for payments, and that prohibits credits for projects that involve payments bestowing effective control of the energy property. It's really unlikely that you guys would be in that bucket, but you still have to prove it. So especially if the IRS audits any of these projects, this is something that the board is going to have to be prepared to answer to. And then the last one was what I was talking about, material assistance. Projects cannot be constructed with a significant portion of components manufactured by PFEs. And so that you understand, most solar projects installed in America today are Chinese components. That is the cheapest, and it is really difficult for the American manufacturing sector to compete with Chinese labor, and so most of the components that are being installed in America today come from China. However, there are plenty of companies in Europe, in Canada, in Mexico, and in the United States that have these kinds of components available, and what we're seeing some entities do is really start to look at that and figure out if you can pre-purchase any of those types of technology to make sure that you're going to be able to comply with it going down the road. And that's that third part of the rule. So it's not just buy American, because you can also buy European or whatever, but there's these entity rules, and these are new. The tax-exempt entities have never really had to comply with this in terms of proving out their own financials in this way. So the top line takeaways is to begin construction, to commence construction by the end of this year to avoid complex material assistance restrictions. For the smaller scale solar, you can establish that through both the physical work test or by the 5%, and of course we recommend 10% or more. And projects that commence construction after December 31st, they're still eligible for the tax credit. It's just that they're going to have to do all this annoying paperwork to prove where the district's debt is and still continue with the technology, proving that the technology is not from a specified foreign entity as well. Projects that commence construction after July 4th of 26 must be placed in service by December 31st, 2007 to access the investment tax credits. And the goal here is to expedite the movement of available funds to commence construction by the end of this year and optimize your projects for credit eligibility. So this is my phone number with the new email, We Build Progress. So I just want to conclude that we think that anything placed in service after next year, after June 30th of 25, it is not going to be fun, but it may be workable. And so we don't want you to lose hope. We think that there's a lot of assumptions out there that this bill completely repealed everything and there's no hope, but that is not true, and that is not the message I want you to take home. And there's a couple of things that I would like you all to do that I think the board can do to help this process. So SIFMA, the Securities Industry Financial Markets Association, is the association of the bondholders of the debt issuers, and we think if you reach out to them and tell them that you're going to need the underwriters to perform compliance with these prohibited foreign entity rules, they may or may not listen to you, but it would be really helpful for them to hear about this and to prioritize it among the bajillions of other things that they're working on complying with, and make sure they understand that you're going to have to make sure that less than 15% of your debt is held by these prohibited foreign entities. So even if you're not able to prove like 100%, you have to get to at least 85%, proving that it's not a foreign entity, that it's not a prohibited foreign entity. The next is to prepare comments for the Treasury Department. So everything I've just presented on today is from the statutory text itself, but the Treasury Department has not yet issued the regulations that are going to tell us exactly how they want you to go about proving this stuff. So they have up until the end of next year, which is unreal because we need to know what we're supposed to do here. But there will come a point in time when Treasury opens up this for public comment, and we really need bigger school districts like this one to be loud and clear that, maybe they could limit it to the initial buyers. Maybe you don't have to look at the secondary market. There are things that the IRS could do to make this more workable and easier and possible for a district like yours with the finances that you have. And then the third is a congressional fix. So, for example, Chuck Grassley held up the U.S. Treasury nominees for several weeks when it looked like the IRS was going to do some muckety-muck with this earlier this year. So we do have some hope that the Republicans who made the deal to keep these tax credits and not make them repealed right away want them to be workable, especially for schools and municipalities. So all it would take is report language to direct the IRS to do a couple of things to make this workable. And so I will be working with colleagues on the Hill to do that with some of the congressional Republicans. But if there's anything that LAUSD can do to tell us what would be workable with regard to your debt holders, that's the message that I would like to be able to take to the Hill and take to congressional Republicans and try to get some report language so that by the time you have to comply with this, it's totally workable and really easy to do. And then the last thing I just want to come back to so that we're clear is that geothermal heat and cooling and geothermal electricity, which is probably not a thing here, but geothermal heat and cooling is, and so is battery storage. And we really want, when we're done getting the solar in place, we really want you all to think very creatively, and we'll work with Christos to do so, think really creatively about how to implement some of these other technologies that are not as common and have not been deployed as much, especially when it comes to displacing the electric bill for the AC in the summer. And that's it. May I take any questions you might have?
Yes, well, thank you, Katie, for this critical overview and walking us through both the opportunity and the urgency of this moment and how to navigate the situation. Yes, so at this time, I'd like to open the floor for questions or comments from our colleagues or committee members who would like to start us off. Scott, go right ahead.
Well, let me just say you're a one-person whirlwind, and I think that's really amazing. Just amazing. Just one person, what you're doing, it's really amazing. And I
Thank
know you
you.
have your connections, but you're the impetus. So
I have a team, let's
I
be
know,
clear.
but you're
Okay.
still the leader.
Thank
I
you.
know, that's very nice.
Thank you.
Let's see. I'm going to hold off for my questions. I
Okay.
want to just make that comment about you.
Well, that's really kind.
Okay,
I
go
really
ahead.
appreciate it.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you. So nice.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate it. Katie and I have been in touch actually for a while right now discussing some of these challenges. And on my presentation, I'm going to share how we're trying to overcome them. So thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Christos. Yeah, you all are very lucky to have Christos. We've gotten to work with him for literally years now, and I don't think any of the deployment of the Inflation Reduction Act would have obviously would not have happened without him and his team. And I can come back after, I mean, because Christos is going to tell you how you're going to match and meet this stuff, so hopefully that should answer some of the questions you might have too. Okay? Okay. Thank you so much.
We'll combine our questions after Christos, but yes, please.
Great.
Hang on there. Okay, so with that said, I'll invite our Eco-Sustainability Officer, Chief, to come to the podium so we can hear how the district is responding to leveraging these funds and integrating them into a long-term sustainable framework, one that brings together clean energy, partnerships, and accountability. So, Christos, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Dr. Rivas, Board President, Mr. Schmerelson, and Board Member Ms. Newbill, and to our whole committee. It's a pleasure to be here to give you updates today. I'm going to be giving 3 updates. So I'm going to be focusing on 3 different items. And I know the first one will focus and discuss about the solar program itself and specifically about the investment tax credit and what we're doing about it as a school district to realize that credit. Then I'll be focusing on spending some time on the third-party greening partnering updates and the meetings that we had and what actions we have been taking, at least for the last several weeks, to address some of the concerns that were raised to us. And the last one that I have is actually focusing on the comprehensive LAUSD eco-sustainability plan, a plan which is going to define the roadmaps of our school district, how we're going to move forward to meet our objectives for 2030 and 2040 and beyond. So let's just focus right now in the solar and discuss a little bit about our solar initiatives and where we stand today. Certainly, we have a lot of projects that we have installed, and I have to say that we're very fortunate that we've done a lot of the solar work the past decade. And I say this because as we're going to go through the presentation and discussing the actual roadmap itself, the investment tax credits, and the timeline, I say this because we're starting to see and realize the actual utility rates increase on our electricity bill. And by certainly going with solar, we're able to reduce our utility bills, and that's really a huge benefit to our school district. But let's just discuss about our initial plan. What you're seeing right now, it's on this presentation, is our initial plan of how we've looked at this when the resolution was passed in 2019, and how we looked at the vision to be able to meet our 2030 goal of clean electricity by 2030 and clean energy by 2040. What that meant to us is to understand how much power we use. And we looked at the power at the time, and we needed to have an approximately a system of 345 megawatt capacity to be able to meet the needs of the school district. That was for the 2030 goal. And then we looked at the 2040 goal. What that meant is to be able to transition everything that we have, all of our equipment, to all electric, and that will generate another, we're showing about 106 megawatt of power that we to be able to achieve that 2040 goal. So that means that as we move forward and meet our 2030, we'll still have work to do to achieve the 2040 for clean energy in all sectors. That includes pretty much just to remove all of our fossil fuels within the school district itself. We have been methodic in terms of how we approach this, and again, thanks to our Board of Education for approving the installation of 21 projects with solar carports, which is going to provide about 15 megawatt of power to our school district. And that's something that we started, and we have approval earlier this year, and we're moving forward with the planning, design, and eventually construction, which is managed by our facilities team, and we have been watching that closely to ensure that we're making progress, while at the same time, we're looking at the investment tax credit and the impacts that the credit is going to have on the installations that we have. Let me also point out on this actual image that I have on the screen that we're also working with the Department of Water and Power and Southern California Edison to achieve these goals. These goals, when we're transitioning our school district to all clean electricity by 2030, is also aligning our plan with the LA 100 plan. That's the city's plan, the DWP's plan to achieve 100% electricity. Now they change our goal by 2035. What that means is that all the electricity that comes to all of us within the region, it's going to be 100% clean electricity. So we practically don't have to do much and wait for that. But at the same time, we're making business decisions to help offset some of the costs that we have by engaging in having solar installations on our schools. And that's a huge benefit, as I shared earlier, to the school district to lower our utility bills and increase efficiency and sustainability throughout. Now, let's just focus a little bit on the investment tax credit. Specifically, I'm going to focus on the actual solar installations. And the way that we looked at it is looking at the actual projects itself, the actual program itself. We have 21 sites, approximately about 15 megawatts, and we looked at the actual cost and what's eligible in terms of the tax credits. And that's for the 48E that Ms. Katie Thomas explained earlier. So the design costs are not a part of it, or the charger costs, they have another deadline, but the good thing about the electric chargers, vehicle chargers, they have to be actually installed by June of next year. The good thing is that we're working with DWP to ensure rebates to offset some of those costs. And we have an agreement with LADWP to help pay approximately about $40,000 for level 3 charging stations for our chargers that we're installing on our schools. And that was for level 3 for fast chargers. For level 2, it's about $5,000, but at least it's funding that can help offset some of the costs that we have. In terms of what's eligible is the solar, for the solar PV cost, it's the actual construction cost. And when we look at the $82 million investment in terms of the contracts that we have with both Centrica and Ameresco, we're able to realize about $33 million in terms of tax credits. That's a lot of money that we can be able to realize and reinvest. So we take that seriously. So we have been meeting with different entities, including our, I would say, the actual installers or the contractors that will be installing this equipment on our roofs. And we've been having weekly meetings, actually, to kind of make sure that we secure these tax credits in terms of their contract work. There's two parts. There's one part that Katie talked about earlier, where the investments are coming for in terms of the funding that we're using, and that's something we're researching to ensure that the money that we're using in terms of the bond funds, that they're eligible under this requirement. The second part is to ensure eligibility by proceeding, by being able to purchase equipment, and there's different deadlines I'm going to share here on this strategy I'm going to share with you right now. To look at the actual critical dates by the investment tax credit, that you can see by the different dates in terms of one day, one big, beautiful bill passed in July 4, 2025, that the request was pretty much to complete everything by within a year, which takes us to July of 2026. And we know that's going to be very challenging for us to finish these projects by then because we're still in design and we're trying to accelerate them and see what we can finish by then. But our current contract shows that we're going to be able to finish within the fourth quarter of 2027. The September 2, 2025, when we get more clearer requirements, it allows us to safe harbor some of these investment tax credits. And that was for us to be able to have about 5% of the actual investment towards that. And what we did, we've been meeting with both Ameresco and Centrica, and we were able to work with our facilities team to ensure that we issue construction directives and notice to proceed on all these projects so we can be able to move that forward and begin to do the purchasing for at least for the solar systems, including the actual racking and all the information that they need to be able to realize this tax credit. And we try to give ourselves a little bit of flexibility by ensuring that they purchase over the 5%, as Katie was suggesting, to make sure that if there's any changes, at least we have enough funding there to show to the government that we're proceeding with our projects and we can realize our tax credits. So after January 1st, 2026, things will change in terms of we have to comply with other requirements, and what those requirements are that if you, let's say, purchase foreign materials that come from any of the countries that was mentioned earlier, you have to ensure that that if that is part of it, you're not going to be able to realize the actual tax credit. So for us is to ensure that whatever we're purchasing now until the end of the year is done and is completed, and after that time, we have to make sure that we're not purchasing anything that it's coming from any of those countries. And that's very challenging because a lot of the solar panels, for example, they may have parts that are made to any of these countries. They may be coming from, let's say, China, Russia, or Korea. So some of those countries that are now on the list that you shouldn't be purchasing from those countries. Otherwise, you're not going to be eligible for the tax credits. And the plan is to be able to, to finish by July 4, 2026. If you can finish that, that'll be great. If we don't, then we have to make sure that at least if we continue the work, after that we finish within 4 years to ensure that we're going to realize those tax credits, but again, not having any of those foreign materials. So our actual program timeline, as you can see there, it shows some dates in terms of what we are actively now, making sure that we've issued the construction directives and notice to proceed for the projects. So we're actively working on these projects right now with a schedule to complete them by within 2027. The plan here is that we have a buy-off with both of our contractors. They're committed to help us achieve that. The only challenge will be that, again, going back to the actual funding that we use, and it's something that needs to be clarified. It's not clarified 100% yet, that we're not using any funding that is coming from any foreign countries that, again, they're excluded from the list of funding providers for this type of projects. So that's something we've started the process to ensure that we will at least clarify that. And it's something that we should be able to have more information in the next, I would say, few weeks to a month to be able to have that clear to us. My understanding is that as we, and Christina can chime in later on, but we discussed that earlier in terms of a lot of the Measure US and the funding that we've been able to use for this type of projects. We'll release portions of the funding to the buyers, and then as we use that, then when we expend that, we go to the issuance of more bond funds to continue to support our projects that we have. So that's pretty much about the investment tax credits. We have a comfort level, but at the same time, we're still working towards that. We've committed with our contractors to help support us to realize the tax credits. We have to resolve where the funding is coming from to ensure that that's clear as well, while we're waiting for additional language to clarify the requirements of that funding. So that's that section of the presentation. I'm going to move now to the third-party greening partnering updates. And unless if you would like me to pause and take any questions at this point or continue through the presentation throughout. Okay.
Questions at the end, yeah.
Great, thank you. So now I'm just going to talk about the third-party greening and our commitment to the partnerships, how we're streamlining the projects, the lead paint protocols, and the latest updates that we share with the partners, and the funding in terms of how we were able to earmark funding to help support these projects to lower the actual, what we call fees or costs to the projects itself. So we met with the green partners. We invited them and we had a discussion. A lot of these slides were presented to them, but I wanted to also share the updates to all of you because a lot of people have questions about in terms of how we're moving forward. And I wanted to make sure I address the main concerns that were raised to us. So one of the things that we've talked about is the partners, the green partners wanted to make sure we have a single point of contact, that they will come to talk to one entity to address the issues and concerns. Certainly with our size of organization and organizational structure, it got a little complicated for them, so, and we did that. So the Eco-Sustainability Office will be the single point of contact for the partners in terms of any questions they have and anything they need to address. At the same time, we developed what we call a Tiger Team, and I had the opportunity to meet with the Tiger Team early this week, which it was identified from our Facility Services Division as well as from our Office of Environmental Health and Safety. And that is, we identify this team so we can be able to provide quick resolutions to address issues and to be able to train them on these specific projects that we have. So they can be able to have quick responses to ensure that we address the issues and identify issues up front so we can resolve them before they even become issues. So, another thing that we talked about is that our office will monitor all the chargers on the different specific tasks, and I'll share about what those tasks are, anything from design reviews to owners, authorized representatives out in the field, to testing that happens in the field, to ensure that we reduce the cost. So we're going to be doing an accounting in terms of the hours and the time spent on these projects to ensure that they're reasonable, and at the same time we'll be sharing those with our partners. The lead paint protocols were clarified, and we're excited to hear our Office of Environmental Health and Safety sharing that we have now a testing procedure in place for the markings that we have on the pavement. We didn't have that procedure before, and it's something that's going to help us out to test ahead of time. So now we will be able to know the findings in terms of the playgrounds that we have. When you have asphalt, let's say the asphalt receives a clearance, there's no asbestos. Now we can test the actual markings, and if those are clear as well, they can be removed by a demolition contractor. So that should be able to lower the cost significantly from what we had before. It's something that's really going to help offset a lot of the costs throughout the school district. So to do that effort, because it's new, it's a new process, I already directed our team working with our health and safety and the facilities environmental technical unit to start doing the testing immediately on the sites that we have partners that are working on currently. So if we have projects that are in design or ready to start construction, we're going to go on and help them out with that process. For future projects, we're going to anticipate and do that testing at the same time when we do the asphalt testing for asbestos. But at least that's going to help us a lot. So we don't have to abate any pennant lines right now. We're just testing them, and then when you test them, there's different levels of testing that needs to be done in terms of the site testing initially, so we can identify what process we have to follow for if there's remediation or not, and then there's another testing that's done for waste characterization. That's to identify where they're going to take the stockpiles once they remove the asphalt with any other materials, which landfill they're going to be able to remove it to. So those are the two different tests. So we clarified that, and we're going through the process right now to ensure that it's going to be hopefully a smooth process as we move forward. And that's going to be able to save us a lot of funding through our projects throughout. One of the decisions that was made, it was to be able to allocate $3 million from the general fund to support this project. So what was discussed is to, instead of just allocating $1 million per year for 3 years, is to allocate $3 million upfront. So we started that process, and we met with our budget team. Budget services were able to transfer the funds into one account, and now we started the allocation of the funds, and we started meeting with the partners to share with them how much funding they're going to be able to receive based on the grant amount award that they have for the different grants that they apply for, which makes it very, really very helpful for them to be able to plan ahead for the projects that they have. So we have about 44 right now third-party green projects with a grant amount total of 58.1. That includes not just the CAL FIRE project, grant amount projects or grant awarded projects, but also the other grant awarded projects that we have. We wanted to make sure that we do that throughout all the third-party projects. So we're estimating approximately about a 5% allocation of the total grant amount towards these projects. That's going to help us to offset some of the costs in terms of the testing, in terms of the site assessment oversight, design reviews, some of the support that we're providing in the field with the OIR, inspections. So all that, we're going to be able to really help out the partners. At the same time, what we'll be able to do is to be able to minimize some of those costs. So this is something now we have been working with the partners, so we're trying to minimize some of the costs that we are seeing so they don't have to at least spend initially what we thought they will be spending on this project. So each project will be unique. We're meeting with them, understanding the projects. I'm personally going out in the field, meeting with all the partners myself, seeing all the projects to help steer them through that process. So that's pretty much with the green partners what we shared. We shared a few more information with them, but those were the key items that I wanted to share with you. That's going to give the support that is needed to move forward to have successful projects. Now I'm just going to get into the LAUSD Eco-Sustainability Plan, and I'm going to be discussing the existing goals, the plan objectives, the actual planning process that we have in place, the different sectors that we're going to be looking at, how we're going to be able to engage stakeholders into the process. I'll be discussing a little bit about the climate literacy framework and how we engage students in the process, and then the deliverables that we're going to be able to see within a year's time. So the contract was issued to Cummings. Cummings they were able to compete with other companies, and they were very successful. They were successful in terms of getting that contract from LA Unified to help develop the eco-sustainability plan. This presentation that you're seeing here, it's actually a collaboration us and working with Cummings to make sure that we put something together so we're on the same understanding in terms of what we're doing and what we're delivering. So that's what I wanted to share with you so you can get a feel as well of the amount of work that we're going to be putting in place between now and July of next year. So July of next year, we're going to have a whole deliverable that pretty much is going to be addressing all these items here. So the existing goals that we have include the 100% clean energy resolution, the Green Schools for All, the Better Buildings Challenge commitments that we made, which we met in 25, the 100% climate literacy education that was passed as well by 2025. I know I shared last time we're going to be issuing the actual task force report with our recommendations. It's going to be issued, hopefully, if it's not later this week, by next week, because it was going a final review. We'll be able to issue that out. And then the 100% greenhouse gas emissions reduction by 2030. That's something that we've shared with the Department of Energy under the Better Climate Challenge. And the 75% organic waste reduction by 2025. It's another goal that we're evaluating, looking at our organic waste to ensure that it becomes part of this plan as well. So the plan objectives is to really build on what we have been developing for the last decade. And we've done a lot of things. This board took a lot of action in terms of steering us towards being the most sustainable school district in the nation. And congratulations for your efforts, for your thinking, for your vision to be able to help us what we are today, because really it made things a lot easier for us. Starting from 2003 when we passed the High Performance Schools Resolution to the most recent resolutions that I just mentioned that we passed really brought us to a point that we are, including developing the Eco-Sustainability Office. I think it's really a very strategic move to start looking at things from a different perspective. Looking at not just from a perspective that we just look only facilities, but looking at all the different sectors, looking at all the areas, looking at all the different departments to ensure that we're we speak sustainability and we act sustainably throughout the entire school district itself. So with that, you can see the future goals in terms of trying to achieve 100% clean energy and where we are today in red. And then the goals that we set up for 2035, 2040, and then some of the other state emissions that our plan is to beat those, to be able to meet and electrify the school district by 2040. So this is the planning process that we laid forward, and it has 6 steps. And if you notice on the bottom that throughout these 6 steps, something that we have constant is the ongoing stakeholder engagement. And it's something that is very important to us, that we meet with all the partners. We're going to share how we're going to be able to do that, both internal and external, to be able to go through the data analysis by collecting and benchmarking data, by establishing baselines, by identifying what are the risks, what are the climate issues that we need to be dealing with, and how we measure against that. Looking at the actual vision itself and the goals and strategies, and how we align that with the board resolutions that we have. And then we're looking at different roadmaps, looking at actual budgets and how we prioritize. We look at the actual timeline, what we're trying to achieve, and have actual plans to be able to achieve those dates. And then come up with the recommendations in terms of the policy, what policies we need to have in place, looking at the climate risk, look at job impact assessments, what does that mean in terms of being able to achieve the plan. And something that is very important is to ensure that while we engage our students in climate literacy and they're part of the solution here, at the same time to ensure that we have measures to measure everything that we talked about and how we report. And then we'll be able to have this plan outline that we design, develop, and it's going to be something that is going to be presented to the Board of Education in terms of how we'll be able to get there. But again, with all the engagement that we're going to have throughout all the stakeholders. So these are the different sectors that we're aligning to be able to meet and be part of the comprehensive eco-sustainability plan. Anything from climate resilience to greenhouse gas emissions, how we decarbonize our buildings, renewable energy, air quality, energy conservation, stormwater, wastewater, all those are very important to all of us. Waste management, our circular economy, looking at the actual cycle of everything in terms of how we can be more efficient as we do conduct our business. Clean transportation, which a lot of them we're making a lot of progress as we move forward. Healthy food, habitat restoration, education, and social equity and inclusion. So all those are areas that we'll be addressing on the actual plan itself. And if there's more recommendations, we'll evaluate them and make them part of the plan. But these are the areas that we had identified as different sectors for the plan itself right now. So how do we do this? We do this by engaging stakeholders. And you can see the internal and external stakeholders that we have here. So the plan that we're putting in place is to work with our students, our teachers, to work with subject matter experts that work in the different field, to work with the leadership yourselves, so the Board of Education, our chiefs, to make sure that we get all the feedback that we can and the challenges that they're facing to be able to achieve the roadmap that we're putting together. At the same time, working with engaging our partners, the parents, the community organizations that we have, and engaging them to make sure that they're a part and they share their feedback so we can develop this comprehensive plan for the school district itself. It's quite very exciting. There's a lot of work ahead of us, but at the same time, we're doing well in the terms of what we are to date. And as we move forward, we're looking at different engagement methods. How do we do that? We do that through different types of surveying. We look at social media contents and website. We look at newsletters. We have meetings. We have meetings for small group meetings, internal, external, large format. We have working groups and interviews. So we try to cover all the bases of getting the feedback that we need to, because you can imagine when you develop this type of a plan for a school district, we need to make sure that everyone is on the table. And at the same time is how we identify the teams that will be a part of this, that will continue that communication, but also engage more than anything else our users, our students, and our teachers to make sure that this plan is going to be reliable. It's going to be there for at least for so many years to come. And I'll talk about how we do that as well. The climate literacy framework, something I want to stress here is that it can become a learning tool for our students. This is a comprehensive plan that's going to have a lot of sectors. That's going to talk about sustainability throughout. So to me, this could be itself a plan that really can be used in our classrooms. And something that eventually, my hopes is that everybody embrace it and look at it at that kind of level. But we working with some amazing experts in the industry that came up with a team with Cummings, 10 Strands, and the USGBC California, which they're started meeting with them and started discussing the plan itself, and they're giving us their thoughts and ideas, and we're just putting everything together so we can be able to do the engagement that we need and develop this database that we need to develop to be able to incorporate this plan. You can see the deliverables that we're showing here, the actual plan itself. I've talked about all sectors, the roadmaps that we have. How do we get from point A to point B and beyond? What do we need to do to achieve that? And something that I made sure from the beginning that we have a dashboard that we can really measure performance. And it's a dashboard that we can keep able to edit and manage. We already have been meetings with our IT and other entities to ensure that we start developing this dashboard. That is something that when we develop this manual is not just a manual that we can put on the shelf. It's something that we as a school district will continue to update and edit and continue to show performance against the work that we put forward. So the plan itself is we're showing what it's gonna be including, and you can see the message from our superintendent, the executive summary, talk about the background itself, introduction. It's gonna get into the greenhouse gas emissions assessments, and then the actual sectors itself. It's gonna show the actual roadmaps and the implementation. You can see some of the graphics here that we're showing how we're measuring, some of the charts, the graphs that we're showing where we are to date in terms of our consumption, in terms of energy, but waste, and all the different sectors that we have. And then just calling specific items that we wanna put attention to in terms of what we're trying to achieve. And then how we explain and define some of the more complex items that we have here and how we're trying to achieve those as well. So it's quite exciting because there's a lot of work ahead, and when you look at something like this that we're showing right now, the framework for the different sector roadmaps, and you can see the clean energy sector here. That shows you a goal that is shown in the left column in terms of trying to achieve, let's say, that the 2030 or 2028, which, by the way, working with Lacey, going for gold, working for the LA 28, trying to support LA 28 as much as we can. But 2030, the 100% clean energy, and showing the objectives that we're trying to achieve, the year-by-year actions, what we're trying to do, and those are with numerical right to the left in terms of the objectives that we're trying to achieve, the actual funding that is needed, and then the reporting and data. So these roadmaps will be able to help us support and measure against all the different sectors that we have. And then we'll be able to have this dashboard, and this is a sample of the dashboard here that you can see here, that shows data and how we can be able to manage data. The data is to inform us, to help guide us, but at the same time, how we can be able to monitor progress and how we can be able to, for specific audiences, both internal and external, we can share information so they can be able to know how we're measuring against our greenhouse gas emissions, how we're measuring against 100% clean electricity or clean energy goals. And then I'm sharing this again, that will become an educational tool for our students. It's important that we engage our students into this, and that's why it's something that we'll be able to use in the classroom and learn, because the climate itself, it covers everything, and there's so much to learn out of the work that we do. So that's quite exciting for that. So with that, I wanted to thank you. It's a great opportunity to share with you. You're the first, at least I wanted to share our committee about our LAUSD Comprehensive Eco-Sustainability Plan. We're going to start scheduling meetings with meetings at the cabinet level, meetings at the within all the divisions, internal meetings with all the stakeholders, external meetings with all of our CBOs to ensure that we engage our students and everyone in the process. So there's some exciting work that is coming to us, and I'm looking forward to collaborating with all of you to develop something that hopefully will be something that people will look back and be impressed, but also look at the impact that we can have as a school district to our students, to our staff, but more than anything else, also to our environment. So thank you.
Wonderful, Christos. Thank you for the updates, particularly the meeting with our green partners. I think that that's really going to help address a lot of the challenges that they have been facing and our schools are facing. So I think that's very positive moving forward. So I'm glad that that was taking place. And thank you for the comprehensive update and a very forward-looking presentation as we try to meet all of our goals by 2030, 2035, et cetera. So I think that's gonna, I'm glad that you're very organized and you have, all those goals set in place. So let's hope that all pans through. So now I will open it up to our committee members to ask questions, both to our first presenter and now to Christos. So yes, who wants to take charge? Go ahead, forward. Anybody? You want to start?
I have a couple questions, but no. I don't know if you want to go first, go for it.
Okay, but it's fighting. So I'll start it then. Just to, break this up. So I guess my question is for Katie. I just wanted to start off with you because I did have some questions. So I have three, but I'll go with the last one. So once the tax credits or the funds are received, what are the best practices that other districts have used to invest those savings equitably so that the communities facing the greatest environmental burdens see the first benefits of clean energy upgrades?
What an incredible question. Thank you for asking that. I would love to follow up with you about some of the case studies that we found about how the districts are spending that money. I think one of the most common, and Christos did speak to this, is reinvesting. These are investments, these are projects that raise revenue. They produce the electricity that then is sold to LADWP. So it's kind of a forever thing. They can continue to raise money and continue to reinvest. That said, you've really brought up an important point about making sure that the least among us are protected the most. And so there's a very serious history of redlining and environmental racism in this city, and it is incumbent, I think, upon this body in particular to address those things. And so I really am happy to hear that that's the way you're thinking about it. I think there's a lot of remediation that can be done, and I think there's a lot of greening that can be done, especially for students who live in a city and don't necessarily have the green space experience that maybe some of their friends in the Palisades or elsewhere might have. So I appreciate that question very much.
Okay, great. Yeah, so if we can share those case studies, that would be
Absolutely,
great.
I will
And I know
follow up.
we are sharing, but, it's good to know what other school districts, something we
Sure.
can learn from them.
Yeah.
My other question, so as a district moves to claim these direct payments, what specific safeguards or third-party verification, you may have mentioned it, mechanisms should we have in place to ensure full compliance with IRS requirements and to protect LAUSD from any potential disallowance or clawback of credits, especially given the shift in the federal climate around clean energy programs?
So the first thing I have to say is that it's going to depend. We know what we know what the statute says, but we don't yet know how the IRS is going to make you how you're going to go about meeting that statutory requirement. So the IRS Treasury Department is going to let us know this or that type of documentation is going to be required in order to prove that you have qualified with the tax credit. So we will stay in touch. We will make sure that you get full information about how to do that type of paperwork. What I can say for now is to go back to what I said at the end of my presentation, which is that we really encourage you to be in touch with SIFMA. SIFMA is the association that can really help you herd the underwriters of the district's debt and start to collect some of this information and start to comply with this early, because it is going to be hard, if not impossible, to comply with. And then the third would be to get ready to make a comment in the rulemaking at Treasury. And then the last would be that hopefully I fix this before you have to worry about it. So we'll see what we can get done in Congress.
And my last question, given the evolving guidance and potential phase down of certain tax incentives, how can LAUSD structure its clean energy portfolio to maintain financial stability if future federal reimbursements are delayed, reduced, or politically contested for whatever reason maybe?
Yeah, like the shutdown we're in right now. I really appreciate this question. What I can tell you is that for now, the IRS has been issuing these payments. Even though the IRS has been cutting staffers and the IRS and Treasury are under the same types of reductions in force, RIFs, as other agencies have been. But what the IRS has continued to do is pay on time. And if they don't pay on time, they actually owe you interest on that payment. And so where payments have been late, they have issued the payment with the interest. So we're hopeful that that will continue. I think the IRS can be relied on for one thing, which is that they're pencil pusher. Their stereotype is that they're pencil pushers and rule followers, and they're just going to get it done the way that they're supposed to. So my hope is that that will continue. But to your point about how the landscape, the foundation under us keeps changing, I think that's one of the reasons that I feel lucky to live in California, and where I think that the district can really be in touch with your state representatives and making sure that the state renewable energy projects and programs continue to bring funding into the district as well. And Christos has the portfolio sort of structured correctly, where the immediate focus is getting those 21 solar projects done. And then, like I said, eventually let's look at some battery storage. Let's look at some geothermal.
Thanks. Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in? Go ahead, Gloria.
Hi, I have a question. It's probably a simple question related to the first question you asked around the tax credit. So maybe this is a district question. What is the policy for those tax credits? Like, do they go back to like the general fund? Do they need to be earmarked, protected, to be reinvested, or do they go specifically to the office?
Yeah, from my understanding, we don't have a policy on that, so the money is going to get back to the general fund, and we'll have to decide how we're going to be able to invest that. So for now, so that's the plan. And we've already started applying for some of those tax credits, so because there's different types of tax credits, but it's something for us to discuss internally and get back to everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll take the lead, okay. So this is for you. Are solar providers penalized for doing business with prohibited foreign entities, or would we be penalized for just buying from them?
So unfortunately, the developers are not the ones who will be penalized. The district will. So the developers are under a financial incentive to sell you stuff. And that's why you have to be really careful to make sure that they're giving you the documentation to prove that the components, so down to the nuts and screws in the racking, as Christos was saying, is not coming from prohibited foreign countries, especially China, because that's just really where a lot of these components come from. And then let's remember that the prohibited foreign entity rules is a 3-part test. It isn't just where your technology is coming from, it's where your financing is coming from. So I don't want to I think it's going to be easier to prove that your technology complies than it is these other 2 parts of the test.
Also for you, due to possible supply chain issues, rising costs, tariffs, and less competition in the marketplace, what can we expect in the future in terms of expenses being offset by potential savings? I guess that's both of your questions, right? Let me just go on, because I see that we're saving $45.7 million over 25 years. Can this number be reduced if issues arise and we have to push back or completion dates or whatever? Will that be a change?
It is possible, and that's why I mentioned in my presentation that some entities are starting to purchase this technology and this equipment now, because it is available and the market is sort of stable, but for tariffs, which whatever, I'm not going to get into. once these rules go into place, all of a sudden there's going to be a scramble for European and American and North American components. And so just supply and demand, that's going to drive costs up. So it is possible, but I think that it is also possible to safeguard against that now. And I think it is a good idea for the district to be looking at what types of components and technology and equipment it could buy now.
So lastly, for Christos and for Christina, is it common for us to specifically ask where these panels we are buying were manufactured before making a deal? Is that typical of us, or is it only now that we would ask, or would we ask? I don't know.
It's not typical, but at the same time, we're fortunate enough to be working with some of the companies that they want to support us in this. And I have to say that from meeting with them and discussing, we've asked what material they're getting, because for them, they're trying to get the best deals. For us, we're trying to realize the tax credit. The good thing is that we already we've talked to the vendors, we've talked to the manufacturers, and they're able to secure the merchandise they're buying right now to be able to at least realize this tax credit. So it's something that we've kind of thought ahead of time, because we've been meeting for the last several months and we've talked to them about it. So they want to support us. Now, what that means, what we have to do, there's pros and cons. We have to now secure the material. We have to be able to put it on a warehouse, have it ready to do the installation. So as we do the construction, so there's some minor, and we've negotiated all that to make sure that that's done, per the requirements of the tax credit, and at the same time is secured, which at the same time you're able to offset some costs because you're securing material now instead of next year. So you're getting at a better price at the same time. Instead of just buying it 9 months from now or a year from now, which we don't know what the prices will be. So the only cost that we're seeing right now really is the warehousing of some of that material, which is very minimal compared to what we're getting. So we're trying to always be proactive with that.
Quite complicated, I hear. Very, very complicated. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you again, and had a few questions just clarifying with parts and components. Did you mention the shelf life of these pieces? I may have missed it.
So what happened, the shelf life of this, typically we buy material that we're going to give us the warranty that we are seeking, and typically the life of those panels, they give us about 20 years. And we can use them for something, we keep them up to 25, 30 years typically on our schools and more. It's just there's what we call degradation in terms of the production of solar, and we realize that, and we assume that in our estimations in terms of productivity. But then we purchase that ahead of time because typically when you design a system, we've come up with the specifications of what that system is going to look like to ensure that gives us the production or the warranty that the manufacturer is providing to us.
And then along the same lines, when we talk about our solar program, are there factors that can slow down the timelines that we have already put in place?
Yeah, the only factors that can slow down the place if there's a change just because of unforeseen conditions that we have in the field. And we have actually verified all the projects with our facilities team. We ensure that at least most of them, with the exception of 2 that we're discussing now, their meeting will be able to meet those deadlines that we have. There are 2 we're discussing, and those are the ones that we're trying to decide based on other projects that may be happening on that location to see the sequencing and what's best for the project itself.
And it's just based on that project, so it wouldn't be overall, it's just that particular project?
Yeah, it's for that project, but even with that, again, the idea is that we try to stay at the same sites that we talked about so we don't increase the time, so we can be able to realize the tax credit. So we're discussing that and resolving those minor issues on a couple of the projects.
Then moving on to a different topic about offset of fees for our district, and we talk about the greening space. One of the things that have come up in some of our visits, and I'm sure we'll figure out where and how in what schools, I guess there are many schools, one of the discoveries have been arsenic in our grounds, which once we learned that it throws off the timeline for a project.
Yeah, and so we do test the soil. Every time we test the asphalt and we test the soil to ensure that it's clear before we do any improvements on that. And there's certain levels that are acceptable. There's certain that we have to then replace the soil. We're dealing with some projects right now that we're looking for soil on other project sites that we have to move soil from one school that is clear to another project. And it's something that we're actively looking at and trying to support our green partners through that process. There's also locations that we can bring soil that is tested, but that takes about a few weeks. So we can test some of the places where they have soil himself, and then we just have to go through the testing protocol, but it will take us 2 weeks to clear up that soil to be able to move it on a district site.
And then with the funding allocations, you mentioned that there's through planning, design, construction. Does this fluctuate depending on the scope of the project? Is it by square footage that these are allocated?
It is scope, it is the complexity of the project, it is the size of the project. So we're looking at, and we have projects like, and it goes back to the grant award amount. So some of the partners receive grant awards anywhere from $300,000 to $1.2 million. So each site is unique, and some of them they have where they have like comprehensive greening project, where they, in some other cases, they have just planting of trees and some shrubs and to provide some shade in specific locations. So there's a variance. So we're trying to kind of be fair to everyone. We've given the allocation based on the grant award amount. So at least they know how much they're receiving to help support the projects that they have.
And then would it be augmented if they weren't able to, I mean, obviously trying to be fair and spread out this funding because it's not an infinite amount of money, but could they find another partner to help with this, or is that up to that
They
particular
can. We
grant?
have projects that I was just at Esperanza yesterday, and they were able to identify 2 partners to be able to help them offset some of the costs. They had the half-hour grant, and then they went for the California, they went for another grant, the Natural Resources Board, and they were able to have 2 grants to be able to develop close to $3 million to do a comprehensive project there, which is going to look amazing. We're just only a few miles from here. So so you have that option, yes.
Then last, when we, in the planning process, is as we go through phase 1, 2 through 5, is there a way to pivot if it's not on target once we start this plan?
Sorry, and that's for the greening projects?
Or the eco-sustainability plan?
Okay, for the eco-sustainability plan, we defined the process because we gave pretty much the vendor, in this case Cummings, a year's time to complete the project itself. We want to make sure by next school year we'll have an eco-sustainability plan. So if we decide to change for whatever reasons, that's something that we have to discuss with them and see what impact that will have on them to develop that plan. Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Hi, thanks. This is Lauren Akiem. I have a few questions. One is, it might be for Katie. Do the projects, okay, well, let me start first. I think you'll know this, Christos, and maybe you said this. For the 21 projects that the district has, does it seem like y'all are on track and you have everything that you need to be able to fulfill the safe harbor requirement before December 31st? To have
Yes.
like
Yes,
10%?
we are, based on the meetings that we have with both Cummings and Ameresco, we're trying to secure that, and we have put a process in place to be able to meet that. They already talked to the vendors, and they're able to procure the material itself. I mentioned about 1 or 2 projects that we're trying to review some of the issues that came up, and we're trying to resolve those as well. I'm pretty confident that we're going to be able to do that for the 21 projects.
And you
in
don't
terms of
need
that.
anything to change to be able to do that? Like, I don't know how procurement or anything works. That's all?
Yeah, so we've had meetings with procurement, we looked at that and how we're gonna be able to put that in place. The only thing that we're trying to do right now is, and we're discussing with facilities, can we, if we're close to meeting the July of next year date, can we accelerate something to even meet that construction? But it's not just meeting the construction, it's also to be able to complete the project and being able to show that the project's operational.
Right.
So that's the only thing that we're going to look at. We're going to keep revisiting that. And it's not just the 21 projects. We have other projects as well.
Yeah.
So we'll be discussing with facilities to see how we're going to be able to ensure that we can be able to complete some of those projects on time.
That was going to be my next question that's maybe for Katie, is that if the projects are able to fulfill the safe harbor requirement for beginning of construction, do they still need to be in service by the end of June of 2026?
Only to avoid the prohibited foreign entity rules. If you begin
Right.
construction, you can take up to 4 years to place in service, but then you're going to be subject to those prohibited foreign entity rules.
Okay, so even if the projects are able to start through the, beginning of construction by the safe harbor provision before the end of this year, they would still be subject to the PFE requirements if they're not in service by June of 2026?
Yes.
Okay,
But procurement is enough. Off-site storage of material does qualify the projects to be in the safe harbor.
In the
So
safe
that
harbor.
at least gives me relief that these projects will be in the safe harbor. So then it'll just take working with the contractor and DWP to make sure that they are placed in service in time.
okay. Is there anything that y'all need to be, that seems really fast.
Yeah, so think about it, when you do your taxes, right? And you have to make sure that you've issue invoices and you're able to expend the money towards the project by the end of the year. And that's what we're doing here. So we from our perspective, we started the projects, we issued NTPs, we made sure that we secure some of the material perhaps a little earlier, but still, as we go through the process, secure it for the construction of this project. So we need to show as a school district that we've purchased that material.
Yeah.
The contractor is purchasing it, but we're paying that contractor for the purchase that he's done. So, there's a certain risk that we're taking, but we're doing it methodically to ensure that we're not going to put the school district at any risk, because at the same time, this is what needs to happen as we issue NTPs to move these projects forward.
Right. Okay. That is good to hear. I think one of a similar or follow-up is, or just out of curiosity, I know that the 40% is a good kind of conservative estimate, but is the district feel like they'll be eligible for additional bonuses related to the prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements, or the energy community, low-income community kind of bonuses? So it could
Yes.
potentially be greater than
Yeah,
the.
that's correct. So initially it was 30%, plus you
Yeah.
have to work with disadvantaged communities, which gives you another 10%, you go to 40%. And so we wanted to be conservative at 40%, and then my hope is to be able to realize more than that. So,
Yeah, great.
yeah.
Benefit of having the district already having in place a stabilization agreement.
Yeah, we have the project stabilization agreement and all that in place.
Okay, that's good to hear. On the, if there's anything, I guess, that this body would do, it's a little over my head, but to support the district in complying with the PFE requirements on the bond issuances, from as I understand from the presentation, I'm sure we would love to, however we can, with the various congressional or processes that Katie laid out. But just to put, at least I can speak on behalf of Lane that we would love to help support that in whatever way we can as the district explores that. On the, just related to solar, but on the eco-sustainability plan, very exciting. It sounds like, will that plan be able to outline how the district could reach the remaining megawatts towards the goal that you had outlined, the 60-something megawatts that by 2030? Would that plan include a plan for how to get to that, or would the timing not kind of match up?
Absolutely, and that's the timing that I showed on the initial slides. That information that we built, it's going to get transferred to the sustainability plan. Our goal is to be able to do approximately 10 to 15 megawatt per year for the next 5 years to be able to meet that. At the same time, we'll be able to, but you have to have funding to be able to meet that, right? So those are the discussions we're going to have internally and see how we're going to be able to get there. And there's other options as well. I mean, definitely, to me, it's great to be able to achieve the 2030. Another option is that DWP is striving for 2035 100% clean electricity, and I think it's going to be a business decision from the school district itself in terms of the investments versus, what goal are we trying to accomplish and what are the impacts that we're going to have in terms of the investments we'll have to make to meet those goals. So, but, you know, it's exciting to at least have the plan in place. It's going to be on the eco-sustainability plan in terms of the investments that we'll need to have to get there. And my hope is that we'll be able to hopefully identify funding to help support that. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've said this before, but I'll just reiterate that I think we, at Lane at least, really see an opportunity also for the utility to be partners with the district in the placement of some of that in-basin solar, because I'm honestly not sure how we're going to get to DWP's clean energy goal without them partnering with more entities or there being some partnership there. And then on the third-party greening, appreciate that update. It sounds like, is there a point person for partners who, or schools where they're curious about where their project is? Who's the best person for them to reach out to if
Yeah.
they're curious about where a project is?
So our superintendent appointed Mr. Jim Torrance to be the point person for the third-party greening. So manage, which is, so pretty much I report to Mr. Torrance himself. So if you need any information, you can send it to me, and I'll make sure that I share that information to you.
Okay, great. And the, if there is abatement required, can the district cover that abatement? Or is that an
Well-
expectation of the partner?
We didn't plan for it. We didn't identify funding for it because it's something that we don't know what that abatement will be. What does it mean per site? So, and that's something that is very challenging for the grantees when they apply for those grants, they wouldn't know, and they come up with some estimations, right? Because we don't know what the site challenges will be. But at the same time, there are certain amounts that they put on the grant. Now, I talked to the CAL FIRE grant myself, the grantors, and I share with them the concerns, and pretty much what they share that if we identify upfront and apply for it, they will be able to help support, because those are legal requirements that we have to comply with. So we'll
Right.
be able to pay for it. But it's just on this wave that we've done, it was an estimated amount that it was placed against the abatement or remediation of some of the soils that we have, and the challenge is that we don't know what the findings are until we test the soil. So the $3 million can help if one of the partners wants to put money from the allocation that they're going to get towards that. But those are the discussions that we're having with the partners on the specific projects that they have to see where they want to allocate that funding to help support the work that they do without impacting the scope of work that they have.
Thank you. And then this is my last question, I promise. So given that if the project developer of a third-party site, now that they're an unanticipated abatement or other related costs, might change the scope of the original project. I know one of the schools we've talked to, they had originally planned 2 green spaces. Now it looks like they might need to have 1 green space. Can that second green space that doesn't get built with the original grant cost, I'm using my hands a lot, I don't know if that's actually helpful, but can the second green space, could that, if it's not able to be covered by the initial CAL FIRE grants, become a project that could get on an SEP list to get bond funding if the school's on the greening index? Theoretically or legally?
Yeah, I mean, so typically you have a project, and we saw some projects that were downsized. I mean, we already had one of the partners, LABT, finish one of the projects at O'Malvany, it was a great project to see. And let's say they reduce the scope of work based on the grant amount that they have. Now, if depending, that other project, depending on the green index that we have or the information that we have on that project itself, if we still feel that more greening needs to happen, and there's a request and goes through that list, that can become a project itself. There's also something else that I'm working on. I'm trying to help out with the partners is through DWP. DWP just executing an agreement now this week in terms of to help us with greening and resiliency. And my hope is that I can help support some of those projects, depending what that is, at least a little bit, to be able to capture some of that scope of work that we may be losing because of issues that we have. So that's something that is in the works I'm looking at, and hopefully I can help support these projects.
Real quickly, on the battery storage, I think Katie talked a little bit about it, but curious, where are we on battery storage kind of development? It's a big, we're investing heavily into it with our training on battery storage.
Yeah, so we invested on 4 sites on battery storage through the Southern California Edison, and we've done it about 4 or 5 years ago. We did it because at the time, Edison was giving us a big incentive on batteries. And we did that because it made sense in terms of the investment that we're making as a school district versus the amount of monies that Edison was putting towards those battery storage, and we did that. On the most recent projects, the 21, initially we planned to have batteries as well. But when we look at the cost of battery storage, it didn't give us the incentives that we needed back to justify the installation of batteries.
Got it.
Now, in the future, I mean, we're going to continue looking at that, and I hope that the batteries, the cost of the batteries will be lower to help support us, because we want to see microgrids and microcenters at different locations within the school district. But it's something that we're not losing sight. It's something that we're monitoring, and with hopes that the market will drive the batteries to be a lot less and also have rebates or incentives to offset some of the costs.
Well, we were getting there, and then, well,
Yeah.
we're not. I guess also on the outreach, if you could also, on page 19, we talked about doing teacher survey. If we could also add M&O into that. Many of our folks that are working at M&O have to do their continuing education through the Union Hall on all of this. Depends on the local way. It may be 250 or 11. So if we could
Absolutely.
add, yeah,
We'd be more than happy to. Thank you for that.
yeah, no, we would appreciate that, because
Yeah, definitely.
everything we build is green energy to us, just because everything we're just part of what we do now, right? It's just
No, thank you.
yeah. And then I think that's it. Oh, and Board Member Newbill, on the you ask on the life of the
Solar?
solar. Thank you. The life of the solar. Just give an example of how long these things last. When President Obama put the solar panels up at the White House, they were purchased by Jimmy Carter, taken down by Ronald Reagan, and put back up by President Obama. So they last 30, 40 years. They do. They last like, and it's the funny thing about it is that they have not changed much in that time. It's pretty much the same technology, because now with the battery storage, though, that is where we're just storing that energy now instead of just going back into the grid. We're just storing that into the pot. So yeah. It's what happens. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for your presentation. It's really been great working with you, Christos, and really appreciate your work meeting with third-party greening partners and really trying to move projects along. So I'm feeling optimistic after our meeting with you all. So a couple of questions. One was around the eco-sustainability plan. I really liked the layout of the sectors and what that looked like. I just, this is just encourage you to think about how those sectors kind of, like the Venn diagram, like where there's kind of opportunities for overlap where, because the thing about sectors is it can lead to silos, and then things start working, very separately, as opposed to like really, in some sort of synchronicity. So just like wanting you to think about that, and
That's a good
at least just demonstrate some illustration of like where those sectors kind of integrate and, kind of overlap. I also really appreciate that you are thinking about this plan as a tool for learning for the students. I think that's exciting and excellent in that respect. So those are my comments on that. I have a question regarding to greening. One is with regards to the testing for lead paint and asphalt testing and soil testing, et cetera. I'm curious, and this is just like my own ignorance, but I'm curious as to whether there is a practice for the district to kind of test just even when there's not a project, because it appears that it's very reactive, because like, oh, a project's coming, we have funding for this, well, now we're gonna test, as opposed to being like proactive, just for the district's own benefit to know like, oh, like we know we have X percentage of, I don't know, lead paint on, our grounds. And so you already have a remediation plan in place. I mean, I don't know if you all are doing that, because we passed Measure US, for a reason, right? And it shouldn't just be like as a reaction. It should be put put the district in position to kind of be a little bit proactive and have, collect some data on the baseline of like what's going on with the grounds?
Mikala, thank you. That's a great question. So let me first start by expressing how thankful I am working with Green School Years of America and yourself as well, because you're always coming up with new initiatives as well and new ideas and concepts to develop these great opportunities for our students. I mean, the microforest and some other concepts that we have, and it's great. So thanks for that, for driving that towards that and nature-based play and all that. In terms of what you just shared with us right now, and probably it's an Office of Environmental Health and Safety answer, but I'll take a stab at it in terms of why we're not doing it. My wish is to do it as well and be more proactive. I think we can be able to do that in the start once we define a project. Just going out and randomly testing really creates other complications in terms of the findings and how do we manage and what do we do about it versus now having a project itself and really testing up front so you know what the cost will be to remediate and invest so you can define your scope of work. And it's something I'm working to kind of do. That's why I started now with supporting the partners by going out and helping up with some of the testing so you can identify who are the entities that can help us out to streamline that process and make it a little faster for us. So, but thanks. That's a great comment. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And then just my last kind of, Christina, did you have a response?
Oh, I only wanted to clarify that we can't use bond funds to just test if there's not a project. So we can't just go to sites and start testing the asphalt unless there is a bond-funded project at that site. So it would have to be a general fund expense.
Got it. Thank you. That's very helpful. The other thing I just want to make a comment on is just really encouraging, as it relates to the greening projects, some sort of more standardized like menu of options, right? And so something that I'm thinking of is like, for the district, I think this will be helpful for greening partners and the district as well. And I get, I'm not saying like hard numbers, but really like somewhere of a range. And so, for example, if you're saying, okay, there's a greening project and we know for just like, for example, our organization did a schoolyard forest, a pilot schoolyard forest at 122nd Street School. And we pretty much are near completion with that project. And there wasn't asphalt removal with that project. It was just planting trees and native shrubs and adding logs and some boulders in what had previously been a lawn, just a grass lawn. And so our full project budget, for construction was about $200,000, right? And so I just encourage, just a menu of options to say, like, if, there's no asphalt removal and you're planting X number of trees and native plants and, have an outdoor seating area, et cetera, it'll cost this much. If you are removing X, square feet of, asphalt, and plan on, whatever the things, I think having that level of just menu or something so people can kind of understand, even if it's a range, even if you're like, from $500,000 to $1 million, this is what you can do. From $1 million to $1.5 million, this is what you can do. You know what I mean? So that when project developers are going after grants that benefit the district, that they also have a better idea as to what they can get for the amount of money that they're, when they're scoping out a project. So that's just an encouragement.
Thanks, Mikhail. That's a great idea and something that we've been looking at even with some of the projects we have been developing lately and running the numbers to see what the cost should be. So it's something that, we'll look into it and see, like you suggested, perhaps we can showcase some of that on our website so at least people have an idea. But I just don't want to set up the wrong idea or expectations that people that can do something for $200,000 that is going to end up costing them $500,000. And that is because of some of the site conditions and that we'll be able to deal with, or some of the pricing that we're seeing that keeps escalating all the time, some of the material pricing. So, but we can do something based on a snapshot of a time that shows to kind of get a feel, but nothing that people should say, oh, I'm going to do this now for X amount of money, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's why you put the disclaimer, like, subject to change based on conditions, right? All the things like that. Like, so best case, worst case scenario, I think just folks need a ballpark. I think like the public, like who are, parents and, folks that aren't really in the weeds of a project need to understand, like, oh, because if I'm a parent, I'm like, oh, I want to see greening on this campus. Well, this should only cost, like maybe I have a background in landscape architect or something something like that, or even construction, oh, this should basically cost, X number amount of money. Well, because it's, the district and you all have your own processes, it might not cost that, right? So just adding a level of transparency somewhere so people kind of have a ballpark idea as to like, oh, this is maybe what I can do for this, and do some little testing around, like what works, what doesn't work around that.
Great, yeah, thank you.
Okay, really quick questions from me for you, unless anybody else is done. So I just wanted to ask just on your presentation, Christos. So the eco-sustainability plan calls for measurable benchmarks from 2030 to 2040. What mechanisms will ensure that cross-departmental accountability so that facilities, maintenance, Division of Instruction are all aligned on both the environmental and educational outcomes for these projects?
That's a great question, Dr. Rivas. And to me, the way I'm looking at this plan, it's a plan that is going to be able to be supported by all divisions, all departments. This is not just going to be the Eco-Sustainability Office publicizing a plan that is not achievable. It's going to be a plan that facilities will have a buy-off, and within all their different departments that they have, maintenance and operations and everyone else, because they will be a part of the team. So we're engaging everyone to be a part of the team to ensure that if it's procurement or if it's anything that has to do with health and safety, food services, that they're all on the table. So when we look at this cost and everything else, what it means to be able to get from where we are to 2030, everybody provide their comments, and there's a buyout and there's a collectiveness in terms of what we're presenting to the board, so you can be able to see it as well and give us your feedback as well.
As new clean energy and electrification projects scale up, how are we preparing our workforce, from maintenance crews to site administrators, to manage, operate, and sustain these systems over time?
Yeah, so great question. So typically, a lot of the programs that we're identifying now within sustainability, let's say if we're looking at the solar itself, they have what they call O&M agreements, operations and maintenance agreements. Those agreements are typically, we used to have them for 10 years. Some of the projects that we've done 10 years ago are actually expiring, and we have to make decisions if we're going to bring them back or if our maintenance team will be able to manage and operate just like other systems. So we ensure on these contracts we have a 20-year agreement up front, and we have the option to stop it in 10 years, let's say, and vice versa. So we're trying to think ahead in terms of what we've seen in the past, what works, what doesn't work, and to have agreements in place to ensure that this system will operate and give us what's called a performance guarantee. Because all these systems that we're installing, they're tied to a performance guarantee, meaning they have to produce so much energy per year. And if they don't, we do what we call true-up reports. We audit them, and they have to issue a check back to the school district for performing based on what they share with us to begin with, because we're the investors. We're making an investment into that. So we're ensuring that those systems, they have that as we move forward. Sure.
That's good to know. As we move forward, aligning sustainability, modernization, and facilities planning, how is the district defining what qualifies as a long-term asset within our sustainability investments? For example, shade, stormwater, or green infrastructure projects that extend the useful life of our campuses?
Yeah, it's something we've starting to measure in terms of, so we can see the impacts. And it's something we'll be working with facilities when we look at the actual greening plan and the green index. For us, is to ensure that as we move forward, to be able to look at the impacts on the environment and be able to report in terms of how much asphalt we're replacing, how much water we're capturing on our site. So it's something that I want to make it very transparent so people can be able to see what we're doing as we move forward. And it's a collaboration with facilities, and we're going to continue to do that so we can be able to showcase and share the work that we're doing as we move forward.
And last area of questions, you mentioned the dashboard performance monitoring. Is it monitoring all the sectors that you mentioned here in your plan, from like climate resilience all the way to, I don't know, education? So what are the areas that the dashboard is?
So the dashboard is going to reflect the different sectors that we have. For example, when you look at greenhouse gas emissions, we're going to look at greenhouse gas emissions. Initially, we looked at only for facilities. So now we're adding transportation. So we're going to look at a comprehensive dashboard that reflects the different areas. so we can, at least we know what we're measuring. And at the same time, we can be able to bifurcate that as well. So we can be able to see transportation itself. We can be able to see a comprehensive of all the different areas. And I think that's something, one of the comments that was given earlier in terms of being able to not have so many sectors because it can be confusing. So we're going to be able to identify and explain exactly what we're measuring against a certain baseline that we establish. So the baseline will be how it was established, when it was established, for example, for transportation electrification, what we're trying to achieve, and how we're making progress against that. But greenhouse gas emissions will be able to get facilities, transportation, and anything else that really uses any kind of fuels within that mix. So we can give a big picture, comprehensive what our footprint is, and then we can sector down to specific areas as well.
So this big picture would eventually include the cost, the savings data, so that families or, the public or stakeholders can see how sustainability investments reduce operating expenses and improving learning conditions over time?
Yeah, I would
that
love
be
to have
included?
that. I think that's a great comment. I think that's something that we do the investments and we forget. It's like when we installed the solar panels 10 years ago and 12 years ago, and we installed we have 63 installations, and it's something that we as a sustainability, we measure, and we see what the cost avoidance every year. We know that about over $5 million of utility cost avoidance, and it keeps escalating as utilities go up, if we weren't making that investment. It's good to always keep that inside and it's something great to show. We do that on our metrics, but I think it's good to have also a metric for the public so they can be able to see their investments, how they were able to reduce the utility bills, because really it's a lot of savings.
Yeah,
And I can share that if we weren't making those, our utility bills would be like 1.4, 1.5.
off the roof,
What we're
yeah.
paying right now. And just, again, I shared earlier about, we looked at the latest utility costs, and for example, DWP raised their costs by 25% just between January and to date. That means that if we're paying $100 million, now we're paying $125 million. If we don't make these investments, our utility costs will be higher and higher, and our general fund will be really suffering from those costs. So that's why we have to be making these investments timely to lower our utility costs and being able to have more operational funds to support our school district.
Wonderful. Thank you for your work, and thank
You're
you also, Katie, for educating us and letting us know the real deal and what steps we need to take, and, so thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you. Also, thank you to our committee members for just really great questions and really getting the information out and, just for letting us know exactly where we're doing and how we're moving forward. So the presenters really helped set a very strong foundation for today's discussion. The collaboration and expertise shared here demonstrate the scope of what's possible when we align funding, planning, and purpose, particularly when it comes to the environment and building a climate-resilient school district. Now, it is time to hear directly from the community voices who make this work also very real every day for our school district. So I will turn it over to Mr. Michael McLean, our board secretariat, to help facilitate the public comment.
Okay, we have folks here for public comment. I'll call on the folks who are listed themselves as being here in person, and then we will call on those who are speaking remotely. So Nathan Cruz, are you here? Nathan Cruz? See Nathan Cruz coming on up. Let's see. Clara Solis. Clara? There you are. Come on up. You'll have 2 minutes to speak once you begin.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Rivas, for visiting us over at San Pascual Park. We encourage the LAUSD Greening Committee to oppose the Arroyo Seco Water Reuse Project, which is receiving Measure W Safe Clean Water funding. The Pasadena South Pasadena project proposes to use a half acre of Los Angeles San Pascual Park to provide free water to the South Pasadena Golf Course in perpetuity. As we face drought conditions, this is a water grab for a golf course. Our neighborhood school, San Pascual Steam Magnet Elementary, is less than 900 feet from the 110 freeway and is close to San Pascual Park. Part of the park includes a small forest that provides habitat and connectivity for wildlife. Neighborhood children, including toddler groups that meet in San Pascual Park, take walks and field trips to the forest and its stream that has fish, turtles, frogs, birds, and other wildlife. Our San Pascual neighborhood is a valley and is susceptible to heat island impacts and pollution from the freeway. Our tree canopy provides shade and protection from both. This project will impact residents and wildlife. Removal of the forests, 136 out of 166 trees, includes large mature oaks and sycamores, and the almost 2-year construction will be devastating to our neighborhood. Mature trees should not be removed in a climate crisis. The replacement trees will not provide any benefit for decades. Additionally, a noisy, smelly pump station will be placed in our parkland in an area that children, walkers, and joggers use daily and that is close to LA homes. We are concerned that this project sends water through a downstream golf course that uses fertilizers and pesticides, which will pollute the Arroyo Seco water downstream. We believe there are better ways to clean the Arroyo Seco. Natural river restoration has long been a goal for residents. A true nature-based solution will benefit residents and clean the water without negative impacts. And I hope you guys are getting your fair share of safe, clean water funding, including Measure W.
Thank you very much for your time. Let's see, Nico Gardner, Serna. Nico Serna, are you here? Nico Gardner Serna, come on up. You have 2 minutes to speak once you begin.
Thank you, board members. My name is Nico Gardner Serna. I am representing United Teachers Los Angeles. We deeply appreciate, of course, the work that Christos, Christina, and the whole team at LAUSD are doing to speed along projects. We know it's a Herculean task that will require a whole-of-government approach. As we move forward with both kind of complete electrification and taking advantage of the tax credits, and as well as making sure that greening partners can do their valuable work. Our hope is to be partners with the district to ensure a public accountability strategy that would include, of course, the sharing of data, co-governance with labor partners and interest holders, as well as a study and analysis of available funds that LAUSD can use to advance climate justice priorities, including, of course, Measure US and Prop 4. And it goes without saying that we, of course, hope that the district continues its practice of using either high road or union labor for all of these projects. So yeah, appreciate all of the work and appreciate the opportunity to have this hearing today. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. David Tokovsky, come on up. You'll have 2 minutes to speak once you begin.
Thank you very much for this presentation today, and thank you above all to the building trades who, without their efforts, Measure BB, K, R, Y, RR, and US would not have passed, and so we are very thankful to their tremendous efforts on behalf of Los Angeles schools and the communities. With respect to the great speaker there from the area along the Arroyo, we used to, Jay Galita and legal used to weigh in on the CEQAs and put in an LA Unified comment if necessary and asked for. Number two, who's in charge of the solar is a really good question. I wasn't quite sure. I know Christos is giving us the report, but it's very important because the contractor, who I believe is Amoresco, is in the battery storage with Southern California Edison, has had some force majeure problems and other issues because of their Chinese product connection, which was raised by the very intelligent speaker today. Another topic, Prop 4. It's good if you could get Prop 4 in here. It's $10 billion. Another topic of interest is the great settlement at Atlas and the money that comes in. But more importantly, the right of first refusal on the property itself. And so there should be some kind of planning, and maybe LA Unified could green that space as well. In terms of the Trump attacks on the alternative and green energy, it'd be really important that we have the legislative comments and what we do for pursuing that at the state level and what can be balanced there. And finally, with respect to the greening partners, I guess it's Cummings, and perhaps their subcontractors, is to get a report from them. Let's hear from it. And finally, what was raised earlier on the hopes that there's something related to curriculum. it would be very important not to hear from Christos, who would write the curriculum for you guys, but K through 12, we don't really know what's going on. We just know the science test scores in this district were pretty abysmal. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Leticia Gudino, I see you're signed up to speak remotely, but do you happen to be in the room? I do not see her. Antonio Sanchez, you are signed up to speak remotely. Please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you have 2 minutes to speak once you begin. Antonio Sanchez. Antonio, I see you're with us. Please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak once you begin.
Hi there. My name is Antonio Sanchez, and I'm the political director for IBW Local 11. I'm also a resident here of Board District 2. First, thank you for taking the time today. This is a great conversation. We have a big goal, several big goals. But look, first, let me just tell you, there was a couple questions about the workforce. We have the electricians ready and available tomorrow, if needed, to complete this work. Our apprenticeship, at some point, was the largest electrical apprenticeship program in the country. We have shrunk a little bit because work is down. So we have about 1,500 apprentices, electrical apprentices, now at our training center. I share that because we have the capacity to essentially double in size, if not more, if needed. Let me also share that a lot of our members are graduates of LAUSD whose kids attend local public schools. We've been building, as has commented, your schools for many, many years. We're also building battery storage projects, solar projects, a lot of energy efficiency work that's coming our way. I have to encourage and ask you to move quickly on these tax credits, the solar tax credits that we've seen essentially be eliminated, canceled, taken away by this federal administration. There's millions of dollars that are going to be lost potentially. So I want to ask the board, the district staff, everybody to move with, of course, efficiency and direction, but quickly, because we need those tax credits. I did hear the mention of a goal to bring an additional 66 megawatts of solar power by 2030. And I want to express
Thank you
support.
very much for your time. Thank you for your time. Okay, the next caller is Yael Pardes. Yael Pardes, I see you're on the line with us. Please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you have 2 minutes to speak once you begin. Yael Pardes.
Hello, Yael Pardes. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. It's really encouraging to see the value LAUSD is putting in clean, safe, healthy environment for our kids and recognizing the importance of nature in kids' life. Science and evidence post to the enormous value of activities in immersion in a natural surrounding. We know that Los Angeles is park poor. There are no natural parks in the whole mid-city. We are fortunate to have such a gem in Highland Park called San Pasqual. It is a natural riparian wildlife corridor in the middle of the city, a small forest with large oaks and sycamore, and a water stream where kids can touch the water, explore wildlife, or sit and cool off in hot summer days. San Pasqual is an accessible wildlife corridor that connects the San Gabriel Hill with Montecito Heights. You can see a wide variety of natural habitat. It's an unforgettable experience. It must be safe. As educators who care about the student health and well-being and safe environment, I want to ask that you oppose the proposed water reuse project at San Pasqual. This project will take at least 2 years to complete and will aggravate the health of all local residents, including the local school. Cutting down 82% of the large trees in this park with their roots, digging an artificial pool, and trucking debris and the soil away will exacerbate noise, worsen air quality, and augment the heat for the whole area, not to mention the devastating destruction of this cherished park and the creatures that rely on it. The purpose of this project is to capture 60% of the Arroyo's water and direct 20 million gallons of free water to treat an affluent golf course. while using Measure W public funds. This measure should not be used to destroy the environment and worsen our kids' health, especially now that we need more trees. It will take 20 years for these new trees to recapture the shade and benefit. Please vote no and protect this natural park. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. All right, Roy Payan, I see you're signed up to speak remotely, but I do not have you online. Are you in the room, Mr. Roy? All right, Nalani Rogers, I see you are on the line. Nalani Rogers, please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you have 2 minutes to speak once you begin. Nalani Rogers.
Hi, my name is Nalani Rogers. I apologize for the noise behind me because I actually work as a California Climate Action Corps fellow at California Creative Learning Academy. And I just wanted to speak on behalf of some of the things that we do here at our school. So over here, we run a pretty extensive garden program as well as a waste diversion program. What our garden program means is not only do we offer environmental science and environmental justice education to all of the classes at our TK through 8th school, but that also means that we maintain the grounds around the school and we try to use indigenous and sustainable practices in order to keep the earth healthy. So we plant a lot of native plants around our building. We're trying to do a lot of urban greening, and we recently brought in a hydroponics program to the school in order to teach the kids more about different ways that we might be able to grow food within the city. With our waste diversion program, every day we actually collect the extra food left over from the kids' lunches, and we either divert that over into the community or we end up making new projects with the food in order to teach the kids about different ways that you can divert your waste. Last year, we ended up diverting over 28,000 pounds from the landfill, which contributed to over 100,000 pounds of methane from being created. And all we want to do is to continue spreading the word about the different things that schools can do to help out our community and become greener partners in general. And once again, apologize for all the noise. We're actually in the middle of our Youth Environmental Leadership Club with our students, where every Wednesday the students get together to write letters and do actions, write letters to our government leaders, such as you guys actually, urging them to think about different ways that we can approach the things that we're already doing. And yeah, and just again, we're the California Climate Action Corps teaching at California Creative Learning Academy, and it's a Title I charter public school.
Thank you for your time.
Over and out.
Okay, Hillary Firestone. Hillary Firestone, I see you're on the line. Please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak once you begin. Hillary Firestone.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Hillary Firestone, and I'm here representative of the Natural Resources Defense Council, NRDC, but I'm also a parent of LAUSD students. I really appreciated the presentations today, and I wanted to comment on those topics. I am urging the district to take timely action to secure these significant federal funding from its planned solar projects. As was mentioned, you have 21 solar projects in development that could qualify for our calculations up to 85 million federal tax credits. However, to receive these funds, we really know that the construction must begin by December 31st of this year or they will disappear. This is a remarkable opportunity to bring new, unrestricted dollars into our schools, funds that could be reinvested to upgrade facilities, green our campuses, improve water quality, or strengthen teacher and student support. If the district does not act swiftly, these dollars will simply be lost. And we've seen that other school systems across the country have already benefited from this program, such as schools in Wisconsin and Massachusetts have received millions in reimbursement from renewable energy projects, demonstrating what's possible when districts move proactively. And we know these investments are not only good for the climate, they're good for our students and for LAUSD's long-term financial health. We heard earlier today that LAUSD spends $100 million on energy costs, and that's going up. By installing solar now, LAUSD can reduce future energy bills, build resilience to extreme heat and power disruptions, and free up more resources for teaching and learning. LAUSD has commendable commitments to sustainability and to creating healthy green schools. The federal tax credits offer an unprecedented opportunity to turn those commitments into action. Please do not let bureaucracy slow you down. I respectfully urge the board and the district leadership to act quickly to commence construction, capture these federal funds, and provide transparent updates on progress. This is really a chance for LAUSD to lead by example, advancing climate solutions that also strengthen our schools and communities. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. And our last caller is Rosa Rivas. Rosa Rivas, you're not online with us. Are you in the room? I don't think Rosa is here, so that concludes public comment.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. So before we adjourn, I'd like to stress that today's discussion was made one thing clear. How we invest, how the district invests, especially in greening and clean energy, defines our priorities. These projects don't just improve infrastructure, they protect learning, safeguard health, and strengthen the future of public education in LA. Every solar array, shade canopy, and green schoolyard is a smart investment in student well-being and the district's fiscal stability, reducing costs, extending the life of our campuses, and turning schools into living classrooms that teach care for the planet. So thank you for all your dedication and collaboration here today, our committee members and our presenters. And with that, this meeting of the Greening Schools and Climate Resilience Committee is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful day.